Hi and welcome back to the Omega Protocol Level 7 playthrough for Mission 1. I've got one small little thing to mention. This tile here was actually flipped over in the wrong orientation, so I just fixed that. Okay, let's get into the Overseer's turn and we'll have a look at that. So here we can see the Overseer's board, and these are all interlocking little puzzle pieces that fit together. For Mission 1, we have 9 specific things or actions that the Overseer can do. He has 6 adrenaline tokens in the pool that he can use. He can't really, as the Overseer, cannot actually do a lot this turn because there's no spawn points on the board. So what I'm going to do quickly is I'm just going to run through each of the 9 boards, and we'll have a look at what the Overseer can do, and I'm sure that in future Overseer turns he will be doing lots of stuff. So let's take a look at the boards individually. And actually, just before we get into the Overseer options, I just want to mention a couple of other things on the board here. You can see there are these little flashlight tokens at various places. Those are investigate marker areas, and if a commando gets adjacent to or on top of that, he can take an action and he will then draw an investigate card. I've also just put out the 1 to 10 tracker for timing. There is also an 11 to 20, but I don't bother using it right now. I don't know if it's going to go past that. And there's also, I put a little token here on number 8. That's a crisis point for Mission 1. So if the timer hits this point, things become more difficult for the commandos. All right, now let's take a look at these individual cards. And you can see there's 9 of them. There are 15 total in the game. So we'll just go through them one at a time and have a look at them. So the first one is Dodge. And it has a adrenaline cost of 3. It has a refresh rate, the little lighter green number there of 2, which means during the refresh phase, you can remove 2 tokens from the well, which is the hole here. And it's basically an interrupt, and it says force a commando to re-roll an attack. So I could have used that. I had 6 adrenaline in my pool. I didn't bother to use it. And there's also something down here in a sort of an orangey color, and it's a committed cost, and it's 5. What it means is you can use this ability even if there are adrenaline tokens in the pool. Normally you can't use an ability if there are adrenaline tokens in the pool. It has to be clear before you can use it. So it's kind of a timing mechanism. But if it has a committed cost down here, you can actually spend that number. So I could spend 5 adrenaline and put them in the bank even if there's adrenaline sitting in the pool. So that's Dodge. We have Hasten, which means at a cost of 4 adrenaline, you can refresh another dashboard ability once, and you'll notice it does not have a committed cost on it, and it has a refresh of 2. So once you use it, it's going to take 2 turns to clear the pool to use it again. Now we have Clone Flankers. It costs 4. Now, the wording on this could be a little bit ambiguous. It says spawn up to 2 clones at event. Well, that makes sense. You spend 4 adrenaline, you can spawn up to 2 clones. Then it says you can pay 2 adrenaline tokens directly to the bank to spawn a clone at another event. You can spawn up to 3 clones this way. So the ambiguity becomes, well, does this mean you can spawn a total of 3 clones or what? What it means is you can spend 4 adrenaline, spawn 2 clones. Then if you pay directly to the bank, say you want to spend 6 adrenaline directly to the bank, you can spawn 3 more. And it tells you down here this ability cannot be used for more than the number of commandos starting the game. So basically what it means is you can spawn up to the number of commandos in the game. So in our case here, I'm using 3 commandos. I could spend 4 adrenaline, put 2 at a vent. We do not have any vents showing yet on the board, but we'll see those coming into play a little bit later. And I can also spend another 2 adrenaline to the bank to spawn a 3rd clone. And you can spawn either one. You can see the image of both. So I could put a rogue clone or a warrior clone in. Next we have Frenzy at a cost of 6 adrenaline. And there's a little note here. It says reduce this cost by 2 if it's being used on a clone. So this, in our instance in this game, it would only cost me 4 to do Frenzy. And what it means is make an additional attack with an enemy during its combat action. It has a refresh of 2, And it has a committed cost of 8. So if I really want to have one of the clones attack twice, I can spend 8 directly to the bank if there are adrenaline tokens in the well. Charge, spend 4 adrenaline. Move an enemy up to twice its speed stat when you activate this. It has a committed of 5, a refresh of 2. So it's basically self-explanatory, doubles the speed of one of your clone warriors or rogue clones. Clone reinforcements. This one now is slightly different. It says for every 2 adrenaline you spend for this ready cost, spawn a clone at an enemy passage tile. Now these are enemy passage tiles. We don't have any yet on the board. I'll explain that a little bit once we go through these cards. It does not have a committed cost. So basically you can spawn up to 3 because there are 3 commandos in the game, but at an entry passage tile. Accelerated response costs 10 adrenaline, that's a lot. It refreshes 10, so it will refresh after every turn. And it basically says refresh every other dashboard ability once. So you can just make all the other dashboard abilities refresh. And we have one of my favorites, Cave In. It costs 10. It's an interrupt. So interrupt means you play it during the commando's turn. And it says place 2 rubble markers on any tile at least 2 spaces apart and not in the same space as a wall, figure, or combatant marker. Any figure adjacent to a rubble marker, when it is placed, suffers a melee attack with 3 black dice. Abilities cannot prevent this attack or modify the figure's stats in response to it. So basically the facility starts to break up and fall down around them, and it's like a free attack. It does cost 10 adrenaline, has refresh of 5. And there's lastly, I think this is the last one. Yes, surprise attack, costs of 4. And it's an interrupt as well. It means make an attack with an enemy against an acting commando. So if a commando is moving or about to shoot, the Overseer could spend 4 adrenaline. I could have done this last turn. I had 6 in my pool, and make a surprise attack against the acting commando. And it says surprise attack can be activated only once for each commando action. So it says each commando action. So if a commando takes 3 move actions, I could theoretically, if I had the ability to spend it and wanted to spend the committed cost on it, I could attack them 3 times. Anyhow, a couple more things before we leave off, because you can see I don't have any vents. I don't have any entry markers for clones. So I don't have 10 adrenaline to cause a cave-in right now. So I really, as far as the Overseer turn goes, can't really do a lot at this moment. But believe me, it's going to ramp up pretty quickly. So just a couple more things here I want to cover. I had mentioned earlier that I randomized the cards and placed them out on the board. Well, that's not quite correct. There are, if I can move this up, there are 4 objective spaces on the board. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, what you do, there's 2 objectives in the game. One of them is to find Dr. Cronus's office and download the data as part of the mission. And then you want to take that downloaded data and escape through the A lift. And so the office or the A lift is going to be in one of these 4 locations, and that's what I've randomized. I don't know where the A lift is, I don't know where the office is, and neither do the commandos. And if you're playing a regular game with someone playing the Overseer, someone playing the commandos, the Overseer gets the option to place those where they want. Again, I randomized it. Anyway, I think that is probably all I'm going to be doing this time. Like I said, the Overseer does not have a lot of options at the moment because all of the 6 clones got blown away by the commandos in the first turn. Had I had clones sitting there, I could have used 1 adrenaline. I'll just show you their card quickly. Whoops, as I destroy the board. I could have used 1 adrenaline here, if it will focus in. This cost in the upper right is the adrenaline cost to activate a move attack action. You can always spend 1 adrenaline just to move one of your clones around. So that is basically it. We'll talk to you next time. I'll see you next time for turn 3, where we will have the commandos once again go, and they're going to have a whopping 13 adrenaline to transfer over to the Overseer. Oh, and one last thing I'll mention, the Overseer cannot have more than 10 adrenaline tokens at the end of his turn. And sorry, one more thing. I will show you this, which is basically a summary, round summary. So you have the timer phase, the commando phase, which we've gone through. First is the transfer adrenaline, assign initiative, and select the stance. Then you have a bunch of actions that I was going through with the commandos: investigate, move, open a door, and trade, all cost 1. And attack, first aid, and heal cost 2. Now first aid is actually called revive. I believe it's printed incorrectly in the back here. And then the overseer turn would have been refresh the dashboard, but we had nothing to refresh. Dashboard abilities, like I'd mentioned, there's really nothing we could do this turn. And activate enemies, all our enemies are dead on the board. And discard adrenaline. The last part, discard adrenaline. If the overseer has more than 10 adrenaline left at that part of the overseer phase, he must discard down to 10 adrenaline. Okay, that's it. Join me next time for turn 3, when the commandos will delve deeper into Terra Bravo underground base, and we'll see what they're going to encounter next time.